So thank you for being here, all of you. And of course, especially Liane, for bringing your time, sharing your wisdom. We are very happy here to have you here because Iyamba is really promoting, as I put in the chat, that individual mindfulness is not enough. We need collectives practicing mindfulness and bringing the mindfulness into action, into the real world, in order to address the issues that we are confronted with. So Iyamba is a huge promoter of the kind of thing that you are doing. We are also very happy for you personally to be here, because as you and I got to know each other, I discovered how embodied you are with the project that you lead or co-lead with your co-worker, and that this is not something that is only from a concept from your brain, but that you really feel it, that you really live it, and have always lived it most of your life. And I'm very happy that you yourself will introduce a few points to give us an impression of how Liane Stephan is connected to the project of the Inner Green Deal. So with a big warm welcome from Iyamba, please, the floor is yours. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Katharina, for this lovely introduction. And thank you to all of you who made the time to be here. Oops, do I need to do something? Safe, okay. Yeah, all fine, okay. So yeah, and I would like, before I move into the topic, I would like actually to share a bit of a personal story. And I think we all have these personal stories, and it's very important. And there already, the Inner Green Deal starts in a way to share personal stories. May they be painful, maybe they be joyful, it doesn't matter, but to share in a group and to be honest about who we are. So the Inner Green Deal, if I think back, it started when I turned 3. And I came from a very violent, very difficult family. So there was a lot of pain and tension in my body. And the only moment I could release my pain and tension was going to this wonderful forest very close to our house, which, you know, for me was kind of a shelter. And I could relax, I could release, I could play with my friends. We built tipis, we played Indian and cowboys. We played in the small river that was there. So that was my joyful moment during the day when I just, you know, moved there and played. And that, you know, till I got 12. And then when I turned 12, we moved to another place and there was no forest, which was quite painful for me. And then when I turned 19, I started to become a Buddhist. And I remember the very first moment that I would sit on a cushion and the teacher guided us through a meditation practice. Tears were running because since I had been 12, that was the moment where I had felt the same peace, the same relaxation that I had when I was in the forest. So the connection between the cushion, so to say, and that peaceful, calm mind that I experienced in nature and on the cushion were suddenly married. And from then on, actually, my whole life, the Buddhist path for me, or the meditation practice or contemplative practices, meant actually to be connected to nature and explore my own human nature, but also the human nature of everyone around me. And I had a more deeper understanding of the interconnectedness, actually. So that's just the story where actually the Inner Green Deal started. And also I have, you know, that is also some kind of digestion and healing. I became a high performance athlete when I turned 14. I ran 100 and 200 meters, was a German champion, and worked quite hard with my body in a way, but that turned myself into my physical existence again so that I could start to explore my physical being. And that helped me too, to understand the connection between mind and body, and then later body work and other stuff. So, and I think that's important as a background for you to understand where I'm coming from. And then in 2017, I felt I was already the CEO of Avaris. Avaris is a global company. We offer mindfulness and evidence-based leadership programs to private organizations. But there was something, coming, emerging inside of me, telling me, Liane, you have to do something. You're the expert for inner development, and the climate crisis is there on the other hand. You have to bring this together because you yourself had the experience how much both is connected with this other. And then the Inner Green Deal just naturally developed with my colleague Jeroen Janss together. So I will give you now a little bit overview with slides. I will share a slide presentation, more about the concept as such and what is going on, and more general information. And later on, when you can ask questions, then we can actually deepen more what we are actually doing exactly and so forth. So I will share a presentation, and please keep in mind if you have questions so that we can share them later and can be answered. So give me a sign if you see something. Yes?
Yes, Liane, clear.
Thank you. Okay. So who is the Inner Green Deal? So it has become a legal entity in 2022. And what we do is we foster the inner dimension of sustainability. And we do this for large systemic organizations like the EU Commission, EU Parliament, or the UN, the UNDP, and UNFCCC. And we work with a lot of change makers, facilitators, community leaders, where we offer programs also for the worldwide mindfulness community through development of our MBST program, so that we actually support the inner development for sustainable, impactful outer actions. And our mission is really to accelerate the green transformation through this inner development, which actually means reconnecting to ourselves, to others, and to nature. So let us start first with the current state of our planet, which I really would like to bring in here again, which is so super important to really digest deeply. So what we can see right now is that in less than 50 years, there is a decrease of 29% of wild animals. If you look at insects, maybe some of you might know in your childhood, driving a car during the summer, how the windows looked like. Today, well, there's hardly an insect on your window, right? So in just 27 years, there's a decrease of 75% in insects. And insects, we always have to understand the impact on us as humans also, and other beings on this planet. Insects help us a lot with, fruition of flowers and all that stuff. They are super important. And then acidification of the oceans, whereas the oceans actually take in CO2, but through the acidification, they don't. And also the loss in ocean life has increased immensely. And these are only just little tiny domains, that lead actually to this environmental crisis. You see our forests, which give us and nourish us with oxygen, just an incredible decline. So what I figured out, and also as the Inner Green Deal, that was one motivation, what we saw, how people react to that. There are many ways, and also in you. And you can now think a little bit why I go through this. So there are strategies how to cope with these kind of numbers, right? And I know for myself, at the very beginning, when the climate crisis got more popular, I'd kind of tuned out. I don't want to hear it. I just go to other places. That was one strategy also of mine. Or even denial. Oh, the climate crisis, it just doesn't exist. Many, many people just deny that there is a climate crisis or environmental crisis. Or you could go, oh, I have already known these numbers. I've heard them many times. It's clear to me. But the question is, what do you feel? What do you sense? How does it impact your heart? That's not answered by saying, I already know this. Or there's some people have this kind of wishful thinking. Yeah. In 2 or 3 years, it's over. It's good again. We come back to neutral. Or I'm living in the north, in the northern part of the hemisphere. I'll be okay. Maybe in the south they will suffer, but here it's fine. Or immediately jumping to solutions, becoming immediately an activist and not thinking about, would that action be helpful? Would it be like has it a long-term impact or not? So I think it's very important. Also, the one person that spoke about teaching in schools, we have to talk about what are our avoiding strategies, because that has to be overcome, and we have to open up to these. And there are many more, I guess. These are just the ones that come immediately to my mind, Now, one could say, what brought us where we are? What are the reasons that we are where we are? And one could say, oh, the climate crisis is just an outer crisis. Something happens in the outer world. I have nothing to do with this. But the truth is, the climate crisis is a relationship crisis. And there's a long, long history of a human story, the narrative of separation. And that is very painful if one really tunes into that story that we all live still till today, in many ways. So if we continue to see ourselves as largely rational beings and independent from everything that surrounds us, then what we tend to do is, first of all, we cannot survive, actually. And second of all, what we do, we exploit everything that's around us. Because if it's only the rationality that is in front, then we don't get a whole picture of the system. And then still the narrative is there. The more competitive you are, the better. So many people's motivation spring from extrinsic motivation. Their intention comes from the outside, less from us as from a source of human nature. So as long as we are competitive, we cannot collaborate. And at the same time, we cannot solve the crisis if we don't collaborate. We need collective intelligence to solve these big problems. And a third reason that nourishes the story of separation is how we see nature as something completely separate from us. We wouldn't cut down forests. We wouldn't, dig deep into the soil for, metals or whatever, when we would see the interdependency between nature and us, and that we are nature too. So we can only exploit nature by seeing it as separate from us. And then the other reason is that we define success still in monetary terms. And we don't see success, who says, oh, we are super successful. We really created a lovely culture in our organization. That's our success. No one would say that. Yeah. Still, that narrative is still ingrained in many domains of our society. And then the last one, how we see change. Preferably, we like to see others change, or technology changes it, something outside of us, so that we don't need to change, which is natural. Our brain doesn't like to change. In a way, it's human, but it doesn't help, and it doesn't overcome that story of separation. So, and therefore, it's so super important that we implement an inner Green Deal, which means the shift of our inner mindset, how we view the world and how we act and interact in this world. And that leads again to just understand that the European Green Deal, for example, looks only for the outer transformation, development of technology, development on the physical level, But it doesn't look onto the inner dimension, which would be a much higher leverage to a systems change. Because if we shift our mind, then we would develop other technologies that serve the humans instead of working against them. And we would develop technologies with long-term orientation. So to support the systems change as a whole, as a holistic view. So therefore, it's very important that we get this understanding of which is for you maybe more understandable as mindfulness teachers or people who are interested in that, but the majority still doesn't get it, why the inner transformation is so important. Now, so the question is, how can we bridge that gap? Yeah, how can we bridge the gap between knowing, conceptual mind, and bringing this into doing? I'm sure if you ask yourself, just be honest to yourself, you know that you should do sports every day, but do you do that? You know it would be good to only eat healthy, but do we do it? You know you shouldn't sit more than 2 hours maybe per day in front of the screen, but do we do this? So there's a lot of knowing in this world, a lot of noise of knowing, but the knowing doesn't help. As long as we don't feel and sense and come back to our human nature, we cannot move into an impactful, sustainable doing and acting. So the connection between mind, body, and heart is super important, because that's the very first glimpse, the seed to understand or to give up the separation. Because if we start connecting mind, body, and heart, which is in the Western world completely separated, the narrative is cognition is important, but body and heart, the embodiment is not so important still. So the first step would be to infuse our understanding that we overcome the separation of mind, body, and heart at first in us as an individual. That's the first step, very first glimpse. But that is not enough, but it's a good step forward. And if we understand the interconnectedness between mind, body, and heart, we start maybe also to understand that there is more interdependency out there. So therefore, mindfulness, or I would rather like to say contemplative practices as such, are super important to bridge that gap between knowing and between doing. So let us look for a moment more closely to our mind. And I think there are 3 barriers of our mind in relation to the climate crisis. The first is that actually our mind is a victim of the climate crisis, because it infuses many, many specifically young minds with anxiety. And if we are in an anxious state, we start to become helpless. We withdraw, and you all know if we are once in the threat system captured, it's very difficult to move forward, to stand up, and to do really impactful actions. Some of these young people act from a place of anxiety and become activists, but they are not so impactful because, aggression doesn't help. I think an inviting mind would be better. But if you're stuck in eco-anxiety, it's very difficult to act properly. And the second thing is our biases. There was a research out there. So 49% of our day, most people act unconsciously, using habits, ingrained habits unconsciously. So we are not aware of actually the impact we have on the system, and vice versa, the system has on us. So overcoming biases like the short-term focus or bystander effect or lack of empathy for people outside of our group. So there are many biases, and they unconsciously trigger our tendencies. And if we are not aware of these, then it's very difficult to change our behavior, and we need to change our behavior and our mind. So that is another barrier of our mind, that there's so much unconsciously going on. And the third thing is the mind is actually, in a way, the driver of the climate crisis, because everything springs from the mind of all the planet families, of each and every human on this planet, because we have cultural narratives, specifically in the West, that are still existent. Family, car, house, 2 children. And I don't want to judge it. It's fine, but it's a narrative. And many people unconsciously live that narrative. Okay, I need a car. That's clear. I need a house. That's clear. Or I need a specific, I need to buy a specific fashion or whatsoever. So there are so many narratives in our mind that actually triggers more and more the climate crisis instead of stopping it. I mean, we can't stop it, but make the choice to make it not worse. So, and if we look at these 3, let's say, barriers of our mind, it becomes quite clear that we need a higher level of consciousness. Without that, without being able to observe ourselves, the consciousness, the collective consciousness, we cannot overcome these barriers. And therefore, contemplative practices and mindfulness is like, for me, the golden nugget to solve those barriers. And that is in your hand as a mindfulness teacher to overcome that and to articulate that we do exactly that. And it's not only for stress reduction, no. We are doing this to overcome certain narratives, to infuse our behavior, our way of being with others in a sustainable way. So having a higher consciousness, we then are able to understand, hey, from which place do I act? Do I act from a place of ego? I want to be seen, I'm the great climate crisis, whatever. Or do we act from helplessness, from powerlessness? Or do I act from fear or necessity, restlessness? Or am I aware and consciously act from purpose, from values, from compassion, so that whatever I do is well thought through? It's about learning, and I'm consciously acting and not just be driven by emotions. So, and there's no judgment about it, because sometimes we just act from fear. That's very human, but just be aware of it. And so many people aren't. And to leverage that has a direct link to the climate crisis, because then our behavior, then we make proper decisions. Do I need to do this right now? Or do I need to buy this right now? And who can I invite from my stakeholders to collectively do something that is impactful? So that is a very crucial piece of the inner Green Deal, to understand inner means from which place do we actually act, and how can we teach that others to shift that place. Now, as the Inner Green Deal, we do a lot of research. We work with Lund University together with Christine Wormsler, who is very well known in that field of mindfulness and climate crisis, environmental crises. And she created a framework, and she said to shift the mind towards sustainable, impactful actions, we need a lot of inner qualities that need to be cultivated. And I just have the 5 ones that we mainly use in our programs. So the one is creating a heightened awareness of the internal world as well as the external, but moreover, of the interdependency between inner and outer. Secondly, we cultivate environmental compassion. So not the traditional compassion also, but specifically environmental compassion. So to be compassionate for trees, for flowers, for all beings, for everything that is on that planet. And then we cultivate courage in the sense of making courageous decisions beyond the comfort zone that help the planet to regenerate. And the 4th quality is gratitude, to understand we can only lower our consumption. We can only work collectively together if we are satisfied with what we have, so that complaints do not disturb our creativity and our way to innovate our actions and plans and projects. And the last one is resilience, which we all know we need to sustain and to regulate ourselves, to adapt to the outer circumstances, because crises will come, they're already there, and we have to somehow deal with them in a very intelligent way, but not only on an individual level, but also on a collective level. So, and in that research, you can see here too, in our environmental compassion practice, which we will also do today in a shorter version, we saw that this had a very strong impact on pro-environmental action. So many participants said, oh, this pro-environmental, this environmental compassion practice, doing it every day, and also having environmental compassion practices in nature, that really fostered me strongly, and also inviting others to do collective actions together in our city, in our community, and so forth. So to summarize that, I would like to say that mindfulness, individual mindfulness, is super good to understand the interconnectedness between mind, heart, and body, but that's not enough. Sitting on the cushion and standing up and starting to walk is good, still not enough. We have to learn and to unlearn. And then we have to invite others and collectively act. Yes, you can act on your own. That's great. And that's wonderful and necessary. But as a collective, we have to bring new ideas to this world. So as the inner development goals describe this, I feel beautifully that from being, and that would be sitting on the cushion, heightened awareness, then we move at the next, and it's not meant in a linear way, you know, it's happening at the same time. We also need critical thinking to understand what our mind patterns are, what our narratives are. And then when we can shift our narratives, we relate in a different way automatically, and inviting others for collective actions, collaborating in a different way, letting go of our ego and understand that we cannot do it alone. That's just stupid to think. And then moving from there into impactful actions together. So without action, without habit change, mindfulness doesn't help. And yet, in a way, it helps to heighten our consciousness, and then everything else can follow easily. So in here, I would like to stop. So many of our programs incorporate this kind of process where people go through this inner development, but we also always combine the inner and the outer, because I think if we are stuck only in the inner, it doesn't really, people don't understand how they bring the inner qualities to the outer world. So, and I would stop here at this point. And Katharina, can I invite the question? Can I show it for the breakout sessions, or do you
Yes,
want to
of course.
first
Of course,
have
yes.
shared stories?
Just to give the whole community an overview of what is going to happen, we decided to have a short presentation as you had now in a general way. And then we will specifically connect all this to mindfulness and teaching mindfulness in the second part. But also today, we will have a 12-minute practice that you can immediately use. So we want to increase the possibility of you being here and getting more skilled in what you can take to your own situation, which Liane will share after we have the breakout rooms. Correct, Liane?
Yes, the practice I will share, and then you can ask all content questions or how we do it and how you could do it, my ideas, how mindfulness teachers can actually support this journey.
So you
Yeah.
will be in 3 or 4, in breakout rooms of 3 or 4. And the question that Liane is offering will also be broadcast into the breakout room. So you have it there, no stress of taking note of that now.
Yeah. So
by the way, Liane, you would have to put it in the chat for me to broadcast it to the rooms.
yeah, I do it then. Oops.
Yeah.
I do it, or I can do it immediately. Wait a moment.
I will create the breakout rooms.
So I put it into the chat already, into this chat, and then later we broadcast it also.
Yes.
So the question is, how do I see mindfulness, or you could also say the inner dimension or human dimension, as an important capacity to shift people's mindset towards long-term and system thinking. So from ego to eco, what is your experience? Share stories, experiences, how you see that shift happening through contemplative practices, and what is needed. But it would be nice to share personal stories, experiences, but also obstacles that you see in that regard.
So, ready?
Ready.
Breakout rooms are open. How long, Liane, are we going?
Okay, so take a comfortable seat and don't lean against the back of the chair. So you can move a little bit forward on the chair. Both feet are standing firmly on the ground. And then slowly, slowly, you can close your eyes for this practice. And please take a deep breath and then exhale completely, and do that 2-3 times. And while you exhale, just simply notice what releases inside of you. And also allow your muscles to release. So try it again. Deep inhalation and completely exhale. And just enjoy the release of tension, of unnecessary tension. And while that is happening, just be aware how you are sitting. Not too tensed, not too relaxed, just a wonderful middle of tension, and become aware of your body as a whole. Enjoy the connection to your body. Slowly settle in to where you are right now. And while you have a sense of your whole body, perhaps there are certain sensations that you notice, maybe sensations in your chest, or maybe you can sense the connection between your hands and your thighs, the warmth in your body or the coolness. Or maybe you sense your heartbeat. And just realize that there's nothing to do right now and nowhere to go. Just be. There's no aim. Just settle into your home, your body. Now bring to mind someone who you feel close to, someone you care about deeply. This could be a child or a family member or someone else. Whomever naturally warms your heart. Take a moment to choose someone. And trust that whoever comes to your mind is that person. Now, let the image of this person arise in front of you, as if this person would sit opposite of you. Now dare to look into the face of this person, deeply into the eyes of this person. And just notice what you sense now in your face, in that person's face, in your chest. And while you look at that loved one, realize that this one, this human being, is breathing in and out like you do, and is subject to aging like you, to sickness, and to joy like you. And that this person wishes to be loved by others like you do, and wishes to be free from suffering like you do. And then from the bottom of your heart, really wish this person, may you be safe, may you be free from suffering, and may you go through life with love and courage. And you may want to use your own phrases, but really send, while looking into the eyes of this person, your loved one, or a child, or someone else, really send these good wishes to this person. May you be safe. May you be free from suffering. May you go through life with love and courage. And then let go of the image and just realize for a moment how similar we are all, with similar needs for safety, love, and connection. And at the same time, in this current state of the planet, we are all experiencing the impact of climate change in one way or the other. And that, depending on circumstances or where we are born, just by chance, that these consequences of climate change impact us differently. So just for a brief moment, extend your wishes specifically to those experiencing difficulties through droughts, flooding, or wildfires in the current state of our planet. And radiate your good wishes to those animals who can't escape the wildfires, humans who can't escape the drafts. Now, expand the love that you have in your heart and bring to mind a wild animal. This could be a deer or a squirrel or a bird or an elephant, whomever naturally warms your heart. Take a moment to choose a wild animal that you care for. Now let the image of this being arise in front of you. Imagine this being in their natural habitat, whether that is in a forest or savanna, on the mountains, or in any other place. Seeing this being in their full splendor, breathing in and out as you do. Or seeing them with their offsprings, nurturing them, giving them love and warmth. realizing how similar the needs of this being are to you and how these needs are challenged by climate change. So wish this being to be safe and well. May you be safe. May you be free from suffering, and may you live your natural life. And gently repeat in your mind these phrases or others. May you be safe. May you be free from suffering, and may you live your natural life. How do you feel now? What do you notice in your body? So sensing our shared nature and that our lives are interdependent and connected. Being aware that all life on earth has commonalities. Now just for a moment, let go of all images and really connect back to your body, to your hands, to your feet. And start taking another deep breath, deep inhalation and longer exhalation, and releasing whatever needs to be released now. And then gently, in your time, open your eyes. And maybe you want to stretch yourself a little bit, or yawn, or whatever is needed. Hey. So there's also a longer version of this practice that we very often do in our programs, including also trees and other things. But sometimes it's also good to do the shorter version. And I feel always, even though I have done it so many times, I always feel touched. And yeah. So, yeah, maybe just whoever likes to share how that felt, that practice, or how you felt in that practice, just one or two words or a sentence would be lovely to hear.
I'd like to share the feeling of connectivity with everything that I meditate around trees, and it's a practice that is beautiful, and it's really a special practice when you engage into nature, and not only globally as the whole planet. And it's a beautiful experience,
Mm.
and I think it's really rewarded, very fruitful if you do it, with, yeah, once every day, maybe 5 minutes, you do this kind of uh, echo mindful, in activation, and yeah,
Mm.
anyway.
Thank you for sharing. Anyone else? Good. So, Katharina, are we now opening up questions or sharing of own projects? What is the best?
Yes, we also have the sharing maybe from the breakout rooms, and it can be mixed with own experiences, like telling whether you locally have a project that is like, well, likely as the Inner Green Deal. Is there someone who would like to share their own project? Anyone has a local project? Yes or no?
I do.
Jaime? Okay. Christina? Is it confidential, or would you like to share it?
No, I like to. I mean, as far well, I'm developing at the moment this innovation in the school.
Okay, just 1 second, Jaime. We are making this short because we also want to be able to share it from the breakout rooms, right?
Yeah.
And our official time here is 17 more minutes. I'm not in a rush to close, but we have to respect that some people might be leaving in 17 minutes. So let's decide together what we will do first. The project, or is there something from the breakout rooms that was to be shared first?
Okay. Yeah, it's very short. My idea is, well, my plan, what I want to do is have workshops, 12 weeks workshops with mindfulness approaches into, into the how we impact the sustainability and the global warming. And yeah, that's the idea. Sorry.
How is it connected to mindfulness? How do you make the bridge to the breakout rooms?
Well,
How do you?
this practice that we already did right now, I would like to do the same with my group. Obviously, it has a lot of challenges because they never do these kind of practices. So, but it's going to be challenges. My idea is introducing, problems that we can take from media and that are related with climate, global warming, and all these events that are happening, and put it in the classroom, and then do exercise with that into this kind of exercise, compassion with to these people, but I think more directly, like
Hmm?
we can go to Madagascar, and the people who are doing the cacao, the agricultural, the rural people there, and they suffering because the impact of the global warming. And we can actually, see a documentary and even talk to them, to somebody, and then we can do it. We can relate that impact experience into meditation. That's what you think.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Yes. But for now, let's digest and then get into a dialogue. We're going to listen to Christina, and then also Martin raised his hand. So, Christina, please share your
Yeah,
project.
I will share the website if you don't mind. And it's a project in schools. Maybe Jaime would like to, maybe we could talk about it later. And we bring mindfulness, the SDGs, and the social emotional skills to the classroom. And now it's in different levels, even now in the university, with university students. And at the same time we develop these inner skills, we are creating some this backpack that have the essential items with when we need to leave home, with a flashlight or some food or some clothes. And kids and young people are building their resources for inner challenge and the outside the event. So that's what we do. We are very glad, and we are working on this.
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. And also
for your
you
time.
help the Ukrainian colleagues to step
Yeah.
up and do the same. So it is planting, it's paying forward. I mean, it's not kept in Portugal. It's moving. Thank you very much for having
Thank
done
you.
that.
We are so glad with that. Yeah.
And Martin, please share yours.
Thank you, Katarina. No, not a project actually, but I understood we also have time for questions to
Yes.
Liane.
Yes,
Is this
go
okay?
ahead.
Yes,
Can I
sure.
come in with a question? Well, first, thank you very much, Liane, for everything you have been doing in this inner Green Deal world. So as I wrote in the chat at the very beginning, it resonates a lot with me, having had a career in sustainability and environmental protection. And from there, developing into a mindfulness teacher, it closes a natural loop for me. So I wasn't much really felt a lot of resonance when I started seeing some time ago what you were developing with Jeroen. So I would like prior to actually asking the question, I would like to share briefly an experience I had during a nature walk recently, well, some months ago. Nature walk with explicit intention to get in touch with nature and with the explicit intention to feel the suffering of nature in climate change and environmental destruction. I was standing there in my favorite forest where I had done a lot of nature walks already, next to a beautiful beech tree, trying to get in touch. And I became aware, well, there's basically a lot of numbness I feel in my chest, in my body, and it's very difficult to feel the connection with the tree, let alone feel the suffering of the tree. And it dawned on me then that this might have something got to do with trauma, and that trauma might be the reason for not feeling more. And then it started opening so in the mind, okay, maybe our collective intergenerational and collective trauma is at the very basis for the disconnection that we have and for the destruction we are inflicting on nature and on ourselves. So with this kind of personal revelation or experience, insight for me, my question, is there anything related to trauma in your work with the Inner Green Deal? Has this, yeah, maybe I leave it with that. I see you nodding, so
Yeah.
I think you got my point.
Yeah. So certainly, yes, not in the sense of that we put that into the program at front, but we inform our practices in a specific way, the way we talk, in a using a language that leaves everything open in the sense of inviting everything, embracing everything, not pushing, offering different opportunities, possibilities, so that people have the choice and not just this is it. And we are talking a lot internally about this, and we are all quite knowledgeable in that, but it's not like the topic at the front. Yeah, but we bring it from the back. Somehow it infuses and informs our actions and how we teach.
Yeah, so
yes.
It's
yeah, and it's a very good point, Martin. It's a very good point, a very valid point. But I would also say that's something what we recognized also when we do like nature walks. It's so important, the instructions. It's not about how you get in touch with nature, because you are already in touch. The question is, what do you need to let go to feel what is there? So I think it's so magic, how how we formulate things, what kind of language we use to infuse the mind with new narratives. Yeah, so that the language itself doesn't support any separation any longer. And that's not so easy, I have to say, also for myself.
Yeah.
I fall back again and again and again into that.
Yeah,
So
beautiful. Thanks for putting the finger on that. Yeah. So my experience that I shared was just happened to be 1 or 2 weeks prior to Thomas Hübel's what's it called?
yeah,
The climate,
spaciousness. Yeah.
the global anyway, a summit that was still going directly in this, fully in this direction. Yeah. So I think would be very beautiful to bring it together to bring your work together with Thomas Hübel's work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One
Okay.
thought I have. Yeah.
I'm not taking more space here today. Okay.
Thank you, Martin.
Eugenio, you are involved in fresks, also taking some inspiration from the climate fresk. And you raised your hand already. Nice. That was simultaneously with my question. So I will stop. You know what I want to ask.
Yeah, I can just share. It's we have these climate fresks that started 5 or 6 years ago for the transition to raise awareness about in a circle way in with cards, and this format is interesting. And I did the soft skills fresk recently, and then I realized, why don't we do a mindfulness fresk? And my thinking was just, and I shared this with some persons, and so I'm actually working with like 10 persons that are really motivated, and not just mindfulness teachers. That's the important thing, because I think the only way is, since changing others is not possible, the only way is raising awareness and having this belief that it comes from being mindful of things, of something, of the climate change, of our own habits. And so yeah, I'm actually working to create a mindfulness fresk. And the question, it's not a question actually, but the thing is, I don't want to have it oriented. I don't think we need to orient things that much. If people become aware, then I think it's sufficient, and they find their own ways. I think it's yeah. So basically, just a mindfulness fresk in French, and then maybe in English. That's the thing, and it will take time, and we'll see if it grows or not. And yeah.
Am I allowed to challenge you?
Yes, of course.
So I would challenge that it is enough to just be aware.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Pause, swallow.
No, it's
Yes.
great. It's great, because awareness is so important. I mean, it's the prerequisite for everything.
Yeah.
But I would like to challenge. So what do you think? Do you really think if everyone would be just simply aware of what is going on, would you think this automatically would lead to learn, unlearn different behavior and collective intelligence? I'm curious about this. This is not a challenging question in the sense of teasing you. It's just really curious question.
Yes. Well, it's a good question. I practice in the Plum Village tradition, so we always say mindfulness of an object, and we try to do out of joy and inside out. So that, but yeah, there is this belief that if people are more mindful and leaders and everybody, then then change will be easier in terms of awareness. But I can only raise that awareness. So at the end of the day, I cannot enforce, I cannot push. So I think I think yes, to answer your question, I think it's the only little step I can do in my position. Because
Maybe not even that, because the other person has to become aware when you nudge. So it's not us doing this, it's us nudging into something that is more aware. You can't make a person more aware.
no, but we can try to cultivate the frame so that the person get the condition, the safety, the safety space, in order to perhaps have this flower to grow up of awareness. That's the only thing we can do in inviting mode. I was taking notes because, yes, inviting mode, and that's the reason behind this mindfulness fresque, because it's a circle, and it's in presence and maybe online also, but we can only invite people to become more aware of climate change or whatever, whatever is crisis, or that's the only thing we can do. I think that's a strong belief. Thanks.
I think awareness is really, for me, the prerequisite, as you said, and inviting people. So also, that's the middle path. That the Inner Green Deal is always saying, we don't want to be activists at all, but inviting people. And yet, I would say, I know many people who are highly aware, and they don't move into action in the sense of shifting collectively a habit. And I think to learn and unlearn and then move into habit change, into collective action, that needs a little bit more effort. And this effort has to be infused by awareness, by compassion, but it needs that step, because we can be all on this planet very aware that we are now dying in the wildfire. We can even feel the flames on our skin. I can still be super aware, but it needs this other part. And I think, but many people have to first understand the internal world of themselves and understand what I said at the beginning. The first seed for me is to understand that we culturally separated mind, heart, and body. And first to understand that, then we understand on a micro level, also the macro level, and then we have to do something. Then we have to move into impactful, sustainable actions. And therefore we have to change habits. We have to let go of things. We have to embrace things, and also turning to the difficulty and to the challenge, because our natural instinct is that we run away when it gets difficult, or when there is a challenge, we run away. It's the threatening mode. And to be able to stand there, to not run away, and then to move into action is super important. So I think there's more than awareness, and yet I fully understand what you say. It needs a certain amount of awareness to be able to do that. Yeah.
When I read your white paper, I also see that intention to bring people to action.
Yeah, that's very, very important for us. We always have in all our programs the inner and outer. And I can say from my experience, when we work on a, governmental level or with the EU or UNDP, with leaders, they are so impatient, because one enemy is also the business of our today's working life. And because the mind is so used to be fragmented, there's no space, there's no spaciousness left actually to think, reflect, sense, and feel. So, and in these programs with these kind of leaders, we bring in first action. So what do you want to do? What do you do already? We are doing, slowly moving down. We go the other spiral around backwards to finally end into being. Because if we don't take, if you can start with practices, they go nuts. So we start with their doing, and then finally, in a downward spiral, finally we end in being. And then from there, having these inequalities a little bit, we link them again to their doing and say, how would that inform differently your doing, your action? Yeah. So, and I think that's very important to look where people are, not to think, oh, we are mindfulness, teachers or compassionate teachers, and we start with that. Sometimes, no, it's not helpful. You lose people. They don't understand you. They go like, what? What is she talking about? And also give them a little bit of cognitive infusion, like neuroscience, climate science, and that doesn't need to be judged. That's where they are, and not they and us, but that's where many humans are. And sometimes I'm there too, so to not be so arrogant, we know it better as mindfulness people, but we are one. There is no difference. We have more information maybe, and we can handle some things differently, but we are not the superstars.
Alan raised his hand. Please, Alan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Katarina.
Hi, Martin.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. I need to leave.
Thank you, Martin.
See you.
See you soon.
I've become aware of something within my own practice that leads me to a question here. So very simply, because I feel I could complicate this, I have always felt within my practice that awareness is foundational. And out of that awareness, intention may be brought, and form follows the intention. Recently, I've started to think about something around attitude and the attitude we bring to the awareness that's being cultivated within the practice. So my question is, and you might have just answered it within shifting from doing or unpacking the doing all the way back to being, because that ground of being will definitely have, if you can touch that inwardly, it will definitely have some shift towards attitudes. So maybe that's the answer. You can tell me, but I'm wondering how you approach attitudes of people within cultivating their awareness, when their attitudes may be, to the extreme, like, this is not a problem, but I'm here now, and I'm in a meditation where awareness is being cultivated. So I don't know, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, so we have, you might be wondering, but or astonished, but especially in the EU context, where all managers from European institutions can participate in our programs, sometimes they don't read really the text, what we are doing in this program. So they're coming and expecting something completely different. And their attitude is, oh, I get now a solution, what to do, but inner and climate crisis, well, yeah, but so a lot of resistance. And the attitude is, first of all, please nourish me, and I don't want to change. And the other attitude is more what I said in my little keynote, yeah, it passes by. The climate crisis will be okay. And I'm very honest, it triggers me internally at first. I'm also a human being, but then I start to immediately shift to really compassion. That really helps me. And I'm just fully curious. I say to those people, oh, that's so interesting. And I would be very curious to know how come that you are thinking this way. I fully understand that you expected something different. I'm curious, what did you expect? So there's first a lot of cognitive exploration. That's how I invite them and reach out my hand to them. And they feel that it is honest. If it would be fake, sometimes I don't believe myself, then they leave. But if I'm honest, deeply honest, and I'm deeply curious, really curious, they start to talk about it. And in a conversation I had, someone would say there is no climate crisis, da 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 da. And then this guy started to talk about the way he's living. Everyone was like, wow, because he said, there is no climate crisis, it's stupid. Because he was like 64 and his whole life he was riding a bike, his whole life. Then he said his whole life he didn't eat meat, he didn't like it. He just didn't like it. Then he said his whole life he's journaling, he has a Tagebuch in German, and he's writing he's reflecting, about his life and everything. But he was still denying the climate crisis because for him, in his context, he was living such a CO2 free life like none of us would. So everyone was like, wow, because we opened the space that people could tell the story behind their neglection or behind the denial, suddenly something else happened. And then there was this one guy who was very upset, and he was like super aggressive to this guy at the beginning. And then finally he opened up and told the story. He lost his 2-year young boy during the floods here in Germany in the Ahrtal. So this 2-year-old boy died in the floods and the rest of the family survived. So everyone who denies the climate crisis, he just freaks out. So I think telling the stories behind what we see at first and hear at first, not believing that this is the pure truth, but what is behind these stories, there we touch deeply the attitude and the being already without practice. But sharing these kind of stories, honestly, I think, and having as a facilitator the ability to do that, to invite those kind of stories, I think that's super important. I don't know if I really answered your question, but that came to mind.
Thank you. Thank you. It's beautiful.
In many cultures, sharing stories is part of the healing process and is part of what makes the culture, because by stories we continue the legacy.
Absolutely.
Of our experiences also, not only of what we know mentally, but what we feel.
And then I think maybe this is the last one. And I think then these people open up, then we can practice, but also, and this is more important, then we can, even though they came from two completely different world stories, practicing together harmonizes us in a way, and then we can do collectively actions. Then we can, take our hands together and move together forward. But if we wouldn't have heard these stories before, no way to move together to a collective action. No way. And what I really liked, as a last word, I really have to say that to Ellen, I really liked your, I'm thinking a lot, I'm trying to figure that out, our relationship to awareness, if it's there, when it's there. Is there a relationship or not? How do we relate to awareness? Or can't we relate because awareness is awareness? And there is no relationship because awareness is awareness. So it's a nice, wonderful exploration.
Mm-hmm. Liane, the thing you just said about these opposite stories and completely different perspectives due to personal experiences. We listened to Juditha Ben Davids about trauma in situations with refugees, and she brought women together who from both sides had taken the weapons from their sons and their husbands. And they, from opposite sides of enemy parts, started to share their stories and to make peace and be examples of peace. And this reminds me of what you just said. When one hears the story of a person who denies climate change due to his low footprint, and the other one who says climate change is here, I even lost my 2-year-old boy, then we have the two stories on the opposite sides.
Yeah, I have a story about this too. I have a good friend. It's actually a good friend of mine, and he denies climate warming and global warming, right? It's a situation for me that is very challenging as a mindful practitioner, because I have to, first of all, have a lot of be patient, try to explain him why, where he is, try to reach where he gets that information from, what is his bias, and then you discover a lot of things. I discovered a lot of things myself about the people who think they like this. And my experience is, at the end of the day, these people are not even conscious of what they are standing for, denying this problem, because it's 98% of the scientifics are agree with this, and this is already well known, but still people, and it's very challenging. But we, as I say, we have to be very patient with these people and try to, I wouldn't say convince, but definitely be able to at least show them some kind of information, reliable scientifically. And this is what we were talking about, the collective actions. I think the collective actions start with yourself, individual actions. And when I talk about individual, you can do a lot of things. We can change a lot of things in terms of the way that we use, our time, technology, the clothes that we wore on, the mobile we use, full of mining and, a lot of blood, and the same with the transportation, and also your job. You can have a job. I mean, you can be mindful and green, but then you are working with this company who is, doing horrible things in the other side of the world. And so there is definitely a challenge in your life. There has to be action. You cannot be compassive doing nothing. There has to be, you have to put things in order. And that's another thing that I think is wrong. Sometimes we think that mindfulness is about just doing nothing. It's the opposite. We have to we have to activate our resources around us, especially in us. Definitely knowing what is going on is important. And talk to others. I think, look, another thing is very important. We as humans, we are a collaborative beings. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. And the fact that we are, in global warming, not together, it says something, says a lot of what we are now. We are in this changing kind of patterns, and the world is changing. Everything is so quick. The technology, the intoxication of the social media, all information is overwhelming us. There's no way to even to have a filter. So it's so important, the awareness. And when I say awareness can be I think sometimes it's a mistake between awareness awareness for me is very, very important in my practice. It's like it's one of the most basic, is the grounded, and then you have attention, and then we need to bring attention. I think awareness is too much to ask for, especially from the public in general. But attention, yes, you can bring attention to these kids and say, look what you are doing with your clothes. Look what you're doing with the way that you act. Look how you react with your technology. Look how you see this war in Gaza. Look what is going on in Africa with these girls that are, they are, there's a lot of problematics that we need to solve them, but in a constructive always. And together creating with creativity and curiosity and critical thinking, we can do a lot of things. We've been doing this for centuries.
I think
Millennia,
Jaime, what was the Jaime? Okay, so it's very interesting when I listen to you. There's so much engagement and so much passion to do something that's really wonderful to feel. You have to do something with your energy, I think, that you have, and you bring it to your students and others. At the same time, I want to point out one thing, and I come back to language. There is a difference if I say, you have to do this, you should look at this, you should do this, or I invite you to think about this. I invite you to maybe you can try this out, or ask questions. What do you think? When I ask, for example, children in my, from my children, friends, and so forth, I ask them just questions, and they find their own logic and their own way, and suddenly, oh, that's interesting. So even though, and I could be like, I could have that energy, what you have, and I know myself how easily I'm so passionate about it that I start a little bit, it has the tone of conviction. And I know, meanwhile, this tone doesn't help. So, and that's true for everyone. It's true also for me. Sometimes I'm like that because I'm so convinced and I want something to change. But we always,
I know what you mean exactly. I definitely understand. Obviously, this is a different background in the classroom. Is different. We are doing this. I think I'm very open with you. I'm sharing my
your passion, your heart.
I am here. But obviously, yes, of course. When I'm trying to have here this conversation, that's obviously at school you cannot say. Obviously, there's always I wouldn't. Sometimes you sound like for a kid especially. You have to be careful because you sound like you are on top of them. But as a teacher, maybe it's something professional. Anyway,
okay.
Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a fine line to be passionate about something and at the same time give enough space for those who are not yet so passionate, because we can kill our own little just bird out of the egg by being too passionate about it and being impatient. And Stasi and Eugenio here, they know very well who is saying this, because I'm so often so impatient and want to push things forward. But we are all learning. We are in this together. We are in this boat together. And so it's good that sometimes we help each other to become either more passionate or to calm down, take care of things and not be pushy. Yeah, it's a huge practice, a huge practice. I would like to invite those who have projects going on in this field, you, Jaime, and also Christina. Please keep in touch. If you want, share what your insights are. We can publish that on the Eyamba news part. And then with your stories, because we talked about stories, we talked about narratives. Stories are so inspiring because they are about people, they're about emotions, and they carry us to have an example of what is working and also of what is not working, to not invent the wheel and then find out, oh, this doesn't work. So this is a very warm invitation. Share your insights with us. When you have anything that is written down or video or an audio, we will give visibility to it so that other colleagues can be nourished by what you have built. It also holds for your projects, Liane, if there is the possibility that you can share your ongoing things with us. We have already promised that people will get resources. They're already on the website. You will get the recording of this. You will get the text for the meditation. So whatever you want to share, whatever we can help to give visibility to your work, let's do it.
Yeah,
let's do
I'm
it.
very grateful for that opportunity. Yeah.
And we are grateful to be able to share. I always say when I read a book, I'm so grateful for the author having put the effort into putting that in the publication so that I can benefit. So if your work is there for us to benefit from, thank you very much. And I see in the chat things are coming up. Eugenia will also share a link to we have the request of this community to share what you want in events here. But before we go into that, you can take that back. We have stretched time. Liane, thank you very much.
Thank you
for your
the
input.
invitation.
And dear colleagues, thank you for sharing your insights, for being so open. And let's promise to each other that we stay on that path, that we continue to work, that we continue to bring our passion and our patience.
Thank you, Katrina. And thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you to all.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
to
you
all.
very much.
Thank you very much.
Those of you, Philippe, Melanie, Jaime, that are not yet connected to Eyamba in a way that you get the newsletter or that you are on the LinkedIn group of Eyamba, I would like to invite you to go to the Eyamba website. You probably have that. The social media is on the bottom of the page, and then please stay with us. Stay with us.
I did it already, but anyway.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Liane
Bye-bye.
and Lassie, Eugenio, can you stay for a moment?
Yeah. I still do.
Good night. Thank you for
Good
being here
night.
so long.
Melanie,
Bye.
see you soon.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.